Hey everyone. Today we're diving into a divorce story that'll hit you right in the gut. Have you ever wondered what secrets could unravel a marriage in an instant? I'm Sarah, and I thought I knew my husband, Mark, after 15 years. But one night, everything changed. It was a quiet Tuesday, the kind where you're just going through the motions: dinner, dishes, Netflix. I was sorting through the mail, half distracted, when I found a letter from a bank we didn't use. My stomach dropped as I tore it open. Inside was a statement for a loan, $200,000 signed by Mark. I stared at the numbers, my heart pounding. We'd built a life together, a nice house in Chicago, vacations in Florida, dreams of early retirement. How could he hide this? I confronted him that night, my voice shaking, expecting an explanation. But his silence was louder than any lie. That was the moment I knew our marriage was over. The financial secrets were just the start, and the fallout would change everything. Stick with me to uncover the truth. The next morning, I couldn't look at him. Mark left for work like nothing happened, but I was already on the phone with a lawyer. The house felt too big, the walls closing in with every step I took. I dug through our files, desperate for answers. Credit card statements, hidden accounts. Each discovery was a fresh betrayal. We'd planned a life of stability, but now I was staring at a mountain of debt. My mind raced. Would we lose the house? Could I afford to start over? I was a teacher, not a millionaire. The lawyer's voice was calm but firm. Divorce is your best option, but asset division will be a fight. I hung up, my hands trembling. Mark's secret loan wasn't just a number, it was a wrecking ball, smashing our future. I sat on the couch, staring at our wedding photo, wondering how we got here. The love we'd built was real, wasn't it? But love doesn't pay bills. I needed to protect myself, no matter how much it hurt. That night, I waited for Mark to come home. The clock ticked past 8, then 9, each second tightening the knot in my chest. When he finally walked in, his tie loosened and eyes avoiding mine, I couldn't hold back. "How could you lie to me?" I demanded, shoving the bank statement in his face. His jaw tightened, but he didn't answer, just stood there, like a stranger in our own kitchen. I pressed harder, my voice cracking. $200,000. "Mark, what did you do with it?" He muttered something about investments, a side business, but it was all vague, slippery. I felt the ground shift beneath me. This wasn't just about money. It was betrayal, pure and raw. I told him I'd called a lawyer. His eyes flashed with something: anger, maybe fear, and he snapped. "You're blowing this out of proportion." That was it. I pointed to the door and said, "Get out." He grabbed his keys and left, the slam echoing through the house. The next day, I met my lawyer, Karen, at her downtown office. She laid it out. Divorce was going to be a war. Mark had already hired a lawyer, some hotshot who specialized in high-stakes cases. Karen warned me that Mark might try to hide assets or downplay the debt. I felt sick, picturing him scheming while I'd been grading papers, trusting him. We filed the papers that week, and soon, I got a call from Karen. Mark was contesting everything: house, savings, even my car. I sat in my classroom after hours, staring at the chalkboard, wondering how our love turned into this battlefield. Every memory: our first date, our daughter's birth, felt tainted. I wasn't just fighting for money, I was fighting for my future. But Mark's silence that night, his refusal to explain, kept gnawing at me. What else was he hiding? I needed answers. And the legal battle was my only way to get them. The divorce papers were served, and suddenly, our life was reduced to numbers on a page. The house, the savings, the debt, everything we'd built was now a battlefield. I sat across from Karen, my lawyer, as she spread out spreadsheets detailing our assets. The $200,000 loan loomed like a dark cloud, but Mark's lawyer claimed he'd invested it in a failed venture with no paper trail. I didn't buy it. Our home, a cozy 3-bedroom we'd spent years renovating, was the biggest prize. I loved that house, the backyard where our daughter, Lily, learned to ride her bike, the kitchen where we hosted Thanksgiving. But Karen was blunt. If you want to keep it, you'll need to take on half the debt. My teacher's salary could barely cover the mortgage, let alone that. Mark, with his tech job, could afford to start over. I couldn't. Every meeting with the lawyers felt like a chess game. Mark's side argued he deserved the house, since he'd paid more of the mortgage. I fired back that I'd managed our budget, stretched every dollar to make our life work. But the numbers didn't lie. Our savings were drained, and the loan payments were crushing. I started calculating what I could lose: the house, my retirement fund, even Lily's college savings. Each possibility cut deeper. One night, I walked through the house, touching the walls, imagining a future where I'd be in a cramped apartment, starting from scratch. The stakes weren't just financial, they were personal. This wasn't about fairness anymore. It was survival. Mark's lawyer pushed for mediation, but I sensed a trap. He was too calm, too confident. I needed to dig deeper, find out what he was protecting. The asset division wasn't just splitting things in half. It was tearing apart the life I thought I'd have forever. The reality of losing my lifestyle hit like a freight train. I'd always pictured our future, Mark and I, retiring early, traveling to Italy, maybe buying a cabin by a lake. That dream was why I'd clipped coupons, skipped vacations, and poured every spare dollar into our home. Now, staring at the asset division papers, I saw that future slipping away. The house was underwater with the loan, and keeping it meant drowning in debt. My salary as a teacher couldn't sustain the life we'd built. I'd be lucky to afford a 1-bedroom rental in a decent neighborhood. At night, I lay awake, imagining Lily sharing a tiny space with me, her childhood toys crammed into boxes. The thought of her losing her home, her stability, broke me. I started cutting corners, canceling cable, skipping dinners out, selling old furniture online. Each sale felt like chipping away at my identity. I wasn't just Sarah, the teacher who hosted book clubs. I was Sarah, the woman who might lose everything. Mark, meanwhile, was already renting a sleek downtown condo. I saw it on his social media, a careless post that stung like a slap. He was moving on, untouched, while I scrambled. Karen warned that if mediation failed, a judge might force us to sell the house and split the proceeds, leaving me with nothing after the debt was paid. I walked through our backyard one evening, Lily's old swing creaking in the breeze, and felt the weight of what was at stake. This wasn't just about money. It was about the life I'd planned, the security I'd promised my daughter. I couldn't let Mark's betrayal erase that. I needed to fight smarter, but the fear of starting over kept me up, whispering that I might not have enough left to rebuild. The mediation loomed, and I was desperate for leverage. I couldn't shake the feeling that Mark was hiding something bigger than the loan. Late one night, I sifted through old emails on our shared laptop. Something I hadn't dared before. Buried in a folder labeled taxes. I found it an email from a lawyer about an offshore account in Mark's name, opened 2 years ago. My heart raced as I read the balance of $150,000 tucked away while we struggled. He'd lied about the failed venture. This wasn't just debt. It was deliberate deception. I printed the email, my hands shaking, and called Karen at dawn. She was floored but cautious. This changes everything, but we need proof it's still active. The next day, I sat in mediation, the email burning a hole in my purse. Mark's lawyer droned on, pushing for a quick settlement, sell the house, split the debt, walk away. I watched Mark, his face calm, almost smug, and felt a surge of anger. When it was my turn, I slid the email across the table. The room went silent. Mark's eyes widened, just for a second, before he recovered. "That's old, irrelevant," he stammered, but his lawyer's nervous glance said otherwise. Karen pounced, demanding a forensic accountant to trace the account. The mediator adjourned, and I left feeling a mix of triumph and dread. I'd exposed his secret, but at what cost? Mark's betrayal cut deeper now, knowing he'd planned to leave me with nothing. The negotiations were far from over, and this discovery shifted the power, but it also meant a longer, uglier fight. I drove home, gripping the wheel, wondering if the truth would free me or trap me in this war forever. The offshore account revelation shattered me emotionally, more than I'd expected. I'd been running on anger, but now grief crept in, heavy and relentless. I'd loved Mark, his laugh, his late-night talks about our dreams. How did that man become this stranger hiding money while our life crumbled at home? I avoided Lily's questions about her dad, pasting on a smile while my heart ached. I couldn't sleep, replaying every moment of our marriage, wondering what I'd missed. The divorce wasn't just a legal fight anymore. It was a funeral for the life I thought we had. I started second-guessing myself in meetings with Karen. Should I push harder for the house? Settle to protect Lily from more chaos? My emotions were a fog, clouding every decision. One afternoon, I broke down in Karen's office, tears spilling as I admitted I didn't know what I was fighting for anymore. She listened, then said, "You're not just fighting for assets. You're fighting for your future." Her words stuck, but they didn't erase the pain. I stopped eating out, stopped calling friends. Every choice felt like a step toward a smaller life. At mediation, Mark's lawyer accused me of emotional manipulation with the email, and I nearly lost it. I wanted to scream that he'd stolen my trust, my stability. Instead, I froze. My voice caught in my throat. Karen stepped in, but I felt weak, like my grief was costing me the upper hand. That night, I found an old photo of Mark and me, laughing at a fair. I tore it up, sobbing, realizing I was mourning a man who didn't exist. The emotional toll was skewing my judgment, but I had to keep going for Lily, for myself. I needed clarity, but all I had was this raw, aching wound. The courtroom was colder than I'd imagined, its fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows on the wooden benches. I sat beside Karen, my stomach in knots, as the judge reviewed our case. The offshore account had forced us into court after mediation collapsed. Mark's lawyer painted him as a victim, claiming the account was a desperate attempt to save the marriage through investments. I clenched my fists, biting back the urge to shout that he'd hidden it, while I budgeted every penny. Karen presented evidence from the forensic accountant the account was active, with recent transfers. The judge's face stayed unreadable, but I felt a flicker of hope. Still, Mark's calm demeanor unnerved me. He was too composed, like he had another card to play. As the hearing dragged on, Karen pushed for me to keep the house, arguing my role as Lily's primary caregiver. Mark's side countered that he'd earned more, entitling him to a bigger share. The numbers swirled: debt, assets, alimony, each one a blow to my dream of stability. Then, in a tense moment, Mark spoke up, offering a compromise he'd take on most of the debt if I relinquished the house. I froze. The house was my anchor, Lily's home, but the debt would crush me, Karen whispered. It's a good deal. Sarah. I looked at Mark, searching for the man I'd loved, but saw only calculation. In that moment, I nodded, my throat tight. The judge approved the deal, and it was done. I'd lose the house, but gain freedom from the loan's weight. Walking out, I felt hollow, like I'd won a battle, but lost the war. The compromise was practical, but it meant letting go of the life I'd fought for. All I could do now was focus on what came next. The divorce was final, and I stood in a small apartment, boxes stacked against bare walls. The house was gone, sold to settle the last of our debts. But I was free of the loan's shadow. I'd kept enough savings to start over, a fragile foundation for Lily and me. The first night, I set up her bed, tucking her in with her favorite stuffed bear. She asked if we'd be okay, and I forced a smile, saying, "Better than okay." Inside, I was terrified, but her trust gave me strength. I started teaching again, the familiar rhythm of lesson plans grounding me. Slowly, I rebuilt new routines, new dreams. I joined a book club, laughed with friends, even took Lily to a pottery class. Each step felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. One day, I passed the old pawn shop where I'd almost sold my wedding ring. I'd kept it, not for love, but as a reminder of my resilience. The divorce had stripped away the life I'd known, but it revealed something stronger me. I wasn't the Sarah who'd trusted blindly. I was wiser, fiercer, ready to build a future on my terms. Lily and I made new memories: pizza nights, park picnics, proof that home wasn't a house, but us, together. The financial ruins were behind me, and though the scars remained, they didn't define me. I'd learned that starting over wasn't failure, it was courage. What do you think have you ever had to rebuild after a loss? Leave a comment below, and if this story hit home, hit that like button and subscribe for more real, raw stories like this one.